Today we celebrate the 29th Sunday in Ordinary Time. Pope Benedict once said, "This world offers you comfort, but you are not made for comfort. You are made for greatness." We are made for greatness, which is why we desire it, which is why we are attracted to glory. In our gospel today, James and John wanted glory. They wanted to share in the glory of Jesus. So they asked him, "Lord, allow us to sit, one at your right hand and the other at your left, in your glory." And Jesus replied, "You do not know what you are asking. You do not know." The problem with James and John was not that they aimed too high, but that they did not aim high enough, because they didn't know what true greatness consisted of. How did Jesus himself attain to great glory? By humbling himself and walking the way of the cross. But even before that, the second person of the Trinity humbled himself by becoming incarnate, by taking on human nature, which made him vulnerable to human suffering. We heard in our second reading from the letter to the Hebrews that Jesus is a high priest, someone who is supremely high, not because he is aloof, but precisely because he is capable of feeling our weaknesses with us. Jesus is capable of feeling our weaknesses with us. On the cross, he humbled himself to feel all our weaknesses to the point of death. This allowed him to bring God's mercy to human weakness. What happens when God's mercy and human weakness come together? The answer is the great glory of the resurrection. When the other disciples heard about James and John, they became indignant. Why? Because they all wanted the same thing and now felt a stronger sense of competition amongst them. So Jesus said to them, "You must not behave like this. You must not lust after glory. Instead, anyone who wants to become great among you must be your servant. Anyone who wants to be first must be slave to all." The lockdown has come to an end for all intents and purposes. When the lockdown ended last year, I asked some school children about their experience of the lockdown. And one boy said, "Sometimes people shut down. Sometimes people shut down. I don't know what was going on in his life, but I could certainly relate to what it might mean to shut down, what it might mean for us to retreat into our own little world, a world of self-imposed isolation." Whatever else we can say about the phenomenon of shutting down, we can say that it is the opposite. It is the opposite of what it means to be a great leader. A true leader does not shut down or lock down or retreat into himself. Instead, he serves by making himself present and available to share in what others are going through, so as to bring mercy to them, so as to bring relief to them. And this is what Jesus did, especially on the way of the cross. He humbled himself and made himself present and available to share in the suffering, the passion, which was the result of all the sins of the whole world. And this allowed Jesus to bring God's mercy to the whole world. He made mercy pandemic, which literally means something that affects all people. We might be thinking, but I'm not strong enough to do what Jesus did. I'm not strong enough to face painful reality or to bear the burden of life. I have no choice but to shut down, lock down, or retreat into myself because I do not have what it takes to become the great leader that my loved ones deserve. Jesus attained to the greatest possible glory because he came not to be served but to serve. He reached down to the smallest and weakest among us. Jesus loves us even at our worst, even at our most spiritually isolated. He loves us. If only we could humble ourselves as well and say that we are lost without him. Then divine mercy will reach down to us in our weakness and raise us up. We only know how to be great. We only know how to serve others by being present and available to share in what they're going through. We only know this by learning from the Master himself, by tasting ourselves the medicine of divine mercy. In this way, God comes to be glorified in what we do, and it is only in God's glory that we find our true greatness. God bless you. Just so you know, from tomorrow the church will be open. I hope that everyone can find some time to pay a visit and spend time in quiet prayer.